Google Classroom is an online learning environment where teachers can assign tasks to students. Once students have completed the tasks, teachers can offer feedback as well as assign grades to student work. The first thing that you will need to do to start your Google Classroom account is to log into your Google Docs account through LPS. Once you've logged in, you can go to classroom.google.com and it will bring you to this page. In the upper right-hand corner, you will see a plus sign. If you click on the plus sign, you can create your first class. You also have the option to join a class, which we can talk about later. You'll click on Create Class, and that will bring up a pop-up menu that prompts you to enter your class name. You can enter in your name as a teacher or any name that you would like. I'm going to enter in Mrs. LaPointe's homeroom. And then you would click Create. Once you've clicked Create, it will take you to your Google Classroom screen that has all of your Google Classroom accounts. This is mine. You can see my different health sections as well as my homeroom account. I'm going to click on my homeroom account so you can see my screen here, and this shows what you as well as your students will see. The first thing that we'll talk about is how to add or invite your students. There are two ways to do this. The first is to give your students a class code that they can enter in. Now earlier when I gave you that option and I talked about the option to join a class on the plus symbol here, that is what students will go to join the class using the class code. So they can enter in the code to join your class, but you can also click on Students at the top, and you can click on Invite, and that will take you to this pop-up menu. You're going to want to go to All Contacts, and then you may enter in the student's name or the student's ID. I'm going to invite Christy Kennedy. So I type in her name and I search, and she pops up. I would select her and then click Invite Students. Once you've invited your students, you can go ahead and start creating announcements and assignments. You're going to want to go back and click on Stream. That will take you to your main page. You'll see all of my assignments and announcements throughout here. But the way that you're going to create that is by clicking on either announcement or assignment. Announcements are pretty simple. If you click on announcements, you can write your announcement, and then you can attach either a document, a Google document, a YouTube video, or a link, and then you can post it to the page. If you post an announcement to the page, it will show up very similar to the assignments here. It's a little bit different, but very much the same thing when you go to actually create an assignment. So if you click on assignment, you can list the title of the assignment. So let's say I wanted to create a vocabulary review assignment. I would put in, the name of my assignment. I can put the description. Write a meaningful sentence for each vocabulary word. Remember to turn in when finished. After you have entered in your directions, you're going to go down and you have some options. You can enter in the due date of your assignment as well as the time. I don't usually use times, but I do put in the due date for the assignment. At the bottom, you'll see that you have some different options that you can attach to your documents. You have the option to upload a file to attach from your computer. You have the option to upload a document from your Google Docs account. You have the option to upload a YouTube video as well as to attach a link to a website. You also have a drop-down menu here where you can select where you want to post these assignments, which home pages you want to post them to. I'm just going to post it to my homeroom page here. Now, if I wanted to go and search for a vocabulary assignment on my screen here, I'm going to go to my Google Drive account, and I have some saved here in my Google Classroom projects, and here's my vocabulary review. Most important part of this entire section of assigning something is to pay attention to this part right over here where it says students can view the file. You want to make it so that students can not edit, because they'll all be editing in the same document, which may be applicable or useful in certain situations, but in this situation I want to make a copy for every single student. That will allow them to have their own individual piece of paper, just like if I were to pass out if I were to actually print this out and pass it out to students, they would each have their own copy. So I'm going to go ahead and assign that with making a copy for each student. And once I assign it, it will show up here in their feed. And you can see here some different things going on. You see the due date up in the corner. You can see that 0 of them are done and 22 are not done. I could also add comments here, but it's important to note that students can also add comments, so be careful with that feature. There is a way to turn that off so that students cannot add comments. You can also make it so that specific students cannot add comments. If you have questions about that, you can find me and I can help you with that, but it's in the student section up in the top, and you can change it so that only the teacher can post or comment, or you can leave it open for students too. I would make sure you have a discussion with your students prior to about the comment feature. Once you've posted that and students go in and create or complete the assignments, you'll see that some of them will start coming back. So if I go to a review assignment here, a vocabulary review, very similar to the one I just assigned, I can see that 12 are finished and 10 are not. I can access those documents by clicking on the completed section here, and it brings me to a list of all the students who have completed them. Some of them have left comments, some of them have not, and I can go ahead and click on those to see the students' work. So if I go ahead and click on one here, and I can click on their completed assignment, and it will bring it up for me to see. I like to highlight in yellow the sections that the students need to complete. So at the top I listed the directions again, underline the meaningful part of the sentence that I included, and then create your own meaningful sentence for each vocabulary word. So there's the word, I included the definition, I included a sentence where they had to underline the meaningful sections, and then they created their own. You can go ahead and leave comments within the document here, or you can leave them on the actual student's work. So I could go ahead and X out of there. I can add a private comment for that student that only they will see. And I can also assign points and grades. I don't typically get into assigning points and grades on here. I usually leave more descriptive feedback in the comment section, but up at the top is where you could assign points if you wanted to. And we'll go back here in the home screen. I was going to show you some different types of projects that I've used with students. I always create all my Google Classroom projects within my Google Drive, and then I save them within a file where I can easily find them and locate them later on. So here's just some different examples of assignments that I've created using Google Drive to attach to my classroom. This was on a selection that the students were instructed to read. And it went over the skills for that week. They had to identify the genre and list 2 ways that they knew, reread a section, and answer a question about that section. And then for multiple meaning words, they had to read a sentence, identify the definition, and then tell what the word meant, as well as use it in another sentence in the same way. So that was one. You saw the vocabulary. We also documented our weekly progress for our weekly assessments on this document. And if it pulls it up here, you can see at the bottom we had our spelling. They documented their spelling scores, their reading scores on there, and I'll show you completed one of those as well so you can see what that looks like. So at the bottom here, I'll pull up our weekly assessments. So the students were instructed not to turn these in because they had to complete them every single week. So if I went and I clicked on a student here, and I opened up that student's work, you can see the spelling scores that they received. They were also supposed to set a goal, but depending upon time, sometimes they did not get to setting that goal, and then it graphed that for them. It was also color-coded for whether they were on or approaching grade level, and then they could see that in their graph on the side. So there are lots of different types of activities that you can complete on Google Classroom. Really, it just takes time sitting down and getting creative with the different ways that you can manipulate those documents. There are some different options. One is using a Google document, which is just like a Word document. Another is Google Sheets, which is like an Excel spreadsheet, which is what we use to create the weekly progress, where we did the graphing for our spelling and our reading assessments each week. There is a Google Slide, which is very similar to PowerPoint. My favorite is Google Drawings, which we use to create this document here. This was for our weekly project that went along with our essential question. This one was about how we can use what we know about animals for new inventions. And so the students had to select an animal and then create an invention based on the details of that animal. So we always included the directions off to the side here. They got to click, and we usually linked a website where they could look into different animals and then use the information that they learned to create an invention. So they were linked to Power Knowledge, where they got to research an animal, and then based on that research they had to create an invention based on that animal. Lots of different ways, just takes time to be creative, so have fun and enjoy Google Classroom.